What's up, Internet and Pensadia? This is DrFord, Succeeding as an Independent, number 2. This is my vlog, and I've got a few new questions today, starting with William Vargas. So William asks, business cards, when is the right amount, what is the right amount of information? When is it too much? When is it too little? So my opinion on business cards is as such. Now remember, these are just my opinions, and they ask the next person and they may have a different opinion, but we're going to come from a sales mentality. Okay, so first things first, you meet somebody at a trade show, you meet somebody on the street, you meet somebody at a coffee shop. Okay, what do? I'm a record producer, I'm a mixer, or whatever. Okay, so you shake hands, you introduce yourself, and they say, well, can I have your card? So a couple things come to mind. First, what is the business card, and what is it? What is its purpose? What is it trying to do? Okay, the goal of a business card is to get contact information and have something memorable that's going to stay with the potential client, go home with the potential client, and then when they see it, they're reminded to call you. Okay, so the first question I have is that you're putting the responsibility on the potential client to contact you. Okay, which means that all the power is with the client, and this is a sales call. This is a potential buyer of your services, and the better scenario would be for you to get their business card, and then you write a little note on it with your Sharpie or whatever, and you're like, hey, I met this client yesterday at the pizzeria at 3 o'clock, and we talked about their project. Okay, and you're writing all this down, and taking your notes, because then you're going to come back to your studio and 24 hours are going to pass, and you're going to be like, all right, what am I doing today? And I'm going to make my sales calls for them. I'm going to reestablish contact, and I'm going to proactively reach out onto a warm lead, because that's what this is. This is someone who said they're interested in your services and they want to talk about it further. I'm going to proactively call, and I'm going to contact them, and I'm going to say, hey, this is Dr. Ford. I met you yesterday at the pizza shop, and we talked about A, B, C, and D. It was a pleasure to meet you, and I appreciate you taking the time to read this email. I'd like to talk to you about your needs as an artist, and coming to my studio and recording. It would be my pleasure to have you, yada, yada, yada. And then you are going to push for a meeting. As we talked about in last week's vlog, you are going to do a face-to-face meeting where you're going to sit down and you're going to go over everything, okay? And you're going to be prepared with a contract and all that. But let's back up. So the thing is that we're right now in the middle of a technology age where the truth is that your business card is right here. And what I mean by that is you could either grab their phone and just put your number in their phone, or you could just get their number and call them. Either way, now they have your phone number, and then you tell the person to put you in their phone right there. Personal connections are always better. Handing someone a business card at a trade show, here's what happens. The business card goes into the pocket, or it goes into the back pocket of the jeans, and then they go home and they wash the jeans, and you just spent 35 cents to have a wadded up piece of nasty paper they're going to find next time they pull the jeans out, and they're going to be like, what is this? Oh, it's this weird ass business card that's all mushed up and I can't read anything. Okay, so the first thought I'm going to say, again, this is going to go to William Vargas, business cards, better to receive them than it is to give them, to the point that I personally do not even carry business cards anymore. And that's not that I don't think they're valuable, and it's something that I don't think I get asked for them all the time, because people do ask all the time. And the truth of the matter is that we should absolutely have business cards, because there is going to be a number of people that ask for your business card that you're going to hand your business card to that will proactively call you, and they want your services. So what happens is that in the short time that you were together with this potential sale, or this artist, this band, this producer, whoever, the time you're with them, hopefully you made up enough of a sales connection that they believe you. They're going to go do their research on you, and they're going to proactively call you and say, okay, here, I want to use your services. Okay, so I would much rather that you spin your thought process as to control this scenario to make more sales, because the goal of this, of course, is to close more sales with clients that result in contracts that get you working as a mixer, as a producer, as a studio owner, whatever it is. Okay, you have to be proactive. Better to receive business cards than to give business cards. Let's go back to your question now. What should be on your business card? Okay, so let's talk about what matters. And what does matter for a music producer is the three things that really matter: your contact information, your brand and what that represents, and then your credit list, because they can't listen to your business card unless you spend $3 per business card and get like a USB drive business card. And then if you were really cool and you had a USB drive business card that had like a demo reel on it and your resume and your bio and all that stuff that would be your electronic press kit that would be on that USB drive, that would be pretty fresh, because you maybe only have a few of those. But if you go to a party and you meet some major publisher and you're like, hey, what's up, major publisher? I only have a couple of these, but here's a USB drive and you can keep this. All right, this has got all my stuff on it. Go check it out, and there you go. That would be pretty cool. But the truth is, you can't have a pocket full of those and give them out to everybody who's got a marketing budget like that they could just throw USB drives around. So let's get back to a business card. So your brand is represented both in what you do and how it looks, the feel of the card. Is it metal? Is it plastic? Is it paper? Is it matte? Is it gloss? I don't know. These are decisions that you have to make that represent your brand. This is your first point of marketing. All right. You're going to say, what do I do? I'm a producer. Here's my card. You could do that. I'm okay with that. I would personally, again, rather say, do you have a card? And I would take it, and then maybe I'll exchange one with them. But remember, outgo of money to go into pocket to be destroyed is kind of a funny thing. So unless someone's specifically asking you for a business card, I probably would just go for the phone, and I would just get them in the phone. So much so that even nowadays you can even just go like this and go, Siri, remind me to call the mystery man tomorrow at noon.
Here's your reminder for tomorrow at 12 p.m.
Okay.
Shall I create it? Okay, I won't remind you.
Okay, that in itself is pretty ingenious, that you could set a reminder on your phone to call someone in 24 hours that you're going to get this card. Okay, so start thinking about sales. Now, again, back to the business card. So you've got obviously your contact information. So if you had space, I would list your main accolades, no hype, world's greatest super producer, doesn't matter unless you happen to have a dozen Grammys, okay, in 12 genres. What you need to say is your name and underneath your title and some accolades, something that's poignant, something that's fast. I have won a few awards, so I just say award-winning producer, award-winning mixer, whatever. You have to do what's right for you. If you're on Billboard charting producer, okay, I don't care what it is. Pick your best accomplishments, and you need to title yourself so that the person looks at it and says they know what they're getting. Okay, and again, facts only, no hype. Because what's going to happen is if they get this thing and it says world's greatest producer, and they go to your website and they listen to the demo reel and it doesn't cut it, you're instantly gone because you lied. Because the brain goes up, dissonance, no, and you're gone. Okay, so represent your brand correctly. The service and the quality level that they're going to get are included in that, and then maybe if you have space, you could include a few of your credits, small little credits to say, currently worked with or whatever, if there's space. But the truth is a business card. So like, again, I would much rather use the business card as a tool to push towards the website where everything is. Okay, but the business card and the website should definitely look the same. So I hope this answered your question. Business cards to me are a little iffy. I will take this one step further. I actually made a one-sheet 8x5 glossy, double-sided, looks very pretty. On the front was a photo of me, and it had 3 quotes about me and my title of my branding, and it looked super cool. And then you flipped it over, and on the back was my contact information, another photo of me, and then it had a credits list, because what really matters, credits list, contact information, some quotes that are basically client referrals in quote form, but they were from other professionals. I got an A&R person, and on and on and on. So I printed a lot of these, and what was interesting about this is that when people asked me for a business card, I would pull out this full page, double printed. It cost me about $1 a piece, and I would say, I don't have any business cards, but I have one sheets. And I said, so if you're seriously going to call me, I will gladly give you this one sheet, and you'll never forget me. I tell you what, I still get people who remember me because of the one sheet. So the next question would be, are you willing to do more than the average person is willing to do to get the business, to create a marketing and sales tool that is powerful and can take you to the next level? Are you willing to spend the extra 25 cents per business card to get the USB one? Are you willing to get the metal one with the cheese grater built into it because it's cheesy music, is whatever? I don't know. You come up with these crazy ass ideas, but this is my point. If this business card is from Vistaprint and it's like a free 50 business cards, then I would say don't bother. But if this business card instantly gives you a recognizable brand quality of quality, and you're like, hey, this is what I do. I'm so serious about what I do that I have this business cards that's awesome. that I spent money on because this is real, here you go. But I would always recommend to maximize your success in a potential sale and that you get their business card and you chase that business. You don't let them chase you, you go after them, okay? Always put sales first. Don't be afraid to step up and reach out and get the client. It's all about numbers, okay? The more times you make these connections, the more clients that you actively contact, the more your people are going to get into your studio, and on and on and on. Okay, so the next question I had was for, let me see here, Nick Franks asked me, what do I do when I have clients who are, and I'm going to paraphrase here, scared of a smaller project studio, scared of versus a big studio, and what that represents, okay? So I think if we're talking, me and you guys that are listening, we're talking about what the represent is first. First off, the idea of the big $1 million studio is success, okay? Because there's no business to be in there unless you're spending money, unless you have a relationship, unless you need the services of a big studio. So if you guys remember last week, we talked about sales techniques, okay? Because that's really what this comes down to. So let's talk about the scenario. So the scenario is we are out at coffee. I had a warm lead from a potential client. They call me or they email me. In 2 emails, I flush out that they have a budget. I've got their website. I've listened to their music. I know I did my due diligence and I've assessed the situation. 1. Okay. And so then I push for the face-to-face meeting. We don't talk about money over email, whatever. I want to sit down with this person and really get together. Okay. So we sit down at coffee and we're drinking our coffee and we got our hands busy, maybe a little brownie or whatever. And we're talking and I'm asking them about themselves and I want to know about this client and this artist and let them talk. And okay, so we're getting all involved and now we have a connection. Okay. And we've realized that we want to work together. The next thing is the client then says, where are we going to work? Are we going to work at this big ass studio or are we going to work at your project studio? So the first thing I would say is, what does that mean to you, the artist? I would put it back on them. What does it mean to you, before we answer any questions, what does it mean to you to be at one or the other? Okay. And then they're going to say, well, I want to do some photography. I want to do some video shoot. And I'd rather be in the big studio where I can bring this all in so I can get content for my YouTube, so I can get content for the music video we're going to shoot, that we're going to tie in. Okay, so what you've done is now you haven't even had a chance to respond yet. You've already found out that there is a major importance to have one studio or the other, and why. Okay, so they've told you. So you always dig deep first. Boom. What is this? Just point blank. Just say it to them. What's the difference? What does this mean to you? And then let's just say they didn't say any of that stuff. They don't care about the visual aspect. Let's say they want the gear. Then I might say, well, I actually have better equipment than half the big studios here in town. So I actually know a couple rooms we could rent out. If being in a really cool location really is important to you, I can take you to this location. Here are the costs, okay? But I got to tell you, my studio comes with better gear than most of these places, and it really does. And again, no hype. We're talking facts here. So I can go toe to toe and say, well, no, I've got a 1073. I've got this mic. I've got a whatever, right? I mean, gear talk. Typically, artists don't want to hear this stuff. They just want to be secure in this because they're not gearheads unless they're gearheads. But let's just pretend it's someone who is not a gearhead. So you're going to say, well, I can give you the same quality at either studio, the small studio or the big studio. So the real question is, since it's not about aesthetics, since it's not about gear, is this a inspiration thing? Do you feel more inspired in one room or the other? And of course, if the answer is yes, and it's going to translate to better music, better environment, better recording, then of course you put it on the artist, you don't put it on yourself. But here's what I always do. I explain to them the merits of where a big studio succeeds and the merits of working in my studio. So as you all, my own studio is my special little place where I am at, and I know my studio really well. So for example, this previous project I just finished was 3 R&B songs with a band and a really great singer, Philip Brandon, who I adore this guy. And so in my studio, I don't have room for a drum kit. I have enough gear to record a drum kit, but I don't have space for it. I've built my room to be a listening room where I do overdubs, really good sounding guitars and vocals, but I'm not trying to set up a drum kit here. I actually had a double Arco bass in the corner over there a couple times, John Hatton. Anyways, that's not the point. So getting back to it, we were talking about big studio, small studio stuff. So I'll say, okay, so the merits of a larger studio is having a great live room, having an excellent collection of vintage or whatever microphones that we can set for the sound of that live room, and the ability to do what we call band-at-once tracking, which would be the entire spine, the rhythm section of the song all at one time. Now, the beauty of this is that when you're doing band-at-once tracking, you knock it off, like out, 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 bang, right? Because the truth of this is that on a day in the studio, and I'll tell you my normal process. When people that intern with me, this is sort of what I show them. I show up at roughly 10 o'clock. Drummer shows up at 10 o'clock. Audio engineer, house audio engineer, and I'll pay a little extra to have the main guy. I want the dude who knows the studio the best, because time is money. And quality is money, okay? Well, quality is time and time is money. So we're going to, from the first 2 hours of our recording day on day one in the big studio, setting up drums, miking up drums, getting drum tones, tweaking the sounds, because we don't want the other band members there watching us and going, oh, when do I get to play? We don't want that, okay? I don't want that pressure. I don't want any of that. So the goal then would be that in about 2 to 3 hours, I'm going to get it all wrapped up and going. We're going to get it all patched in. We're going to get great drum sounds. We're going to tweak it. We might try a few different locations in the room, switch out the snare, whatever it is. We're going to spend 2 to 3 hours getting drum sounds. So noon to 1, the artist usually shows up, whoever's in charge, executive producer at this point, okay? Come in, and then bass player, because it's easy. Bass is, in my opinion, one of the easiest things in the studio, because it sounds like a bass. It sounds like a bass. You plug it in DI, it sounds great. You mic up an amp, it sounds great. It's usually not a big deal for bass, not like drums. Drums take the most time. And then, of course, we're going to get bass tones, and then guitar would be roughly like 130, and then we'll get the guitar set up, and, on and on and on and on. So we're not really even tracking until about 2 o'clock, right? So from 2 to, say I had a 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. session, if we started at 2, go to 8, that's 6 hours of tracking on day one. If I've got 3 songs, there is no reason I can't get that done in one day. But there's all of that work to do one song is kind of ridiculous, okay? Now, that's not to say don't do it if that's specifically what they want. But I say all this to you, and I say all this to the client, because my point is, look, if we're going to spend all this time doing setup, we're really going to nail the sounds in, why do we need to be at a place that charges hourly? Only because we need the large room. We need the ability to do all this stuff. So if this is not your goal, if your goal is not to record live drums and have band-at-once tracking, and you'd prefer to do either sequence drums, because it's a urban dance, hip-hop, whatever, right? It's all drum machine. So there's no need to be in the big studio. You're just spending money, all right? Now, my studio is included in my services as a contractor. So when you hire me as a producer, you get me, you get my studio that comes with me, and you don't get an hourly rate unless you specifically come to me asking for an hourly rate. So generally speaking, I always push for the contract. You know this. So in my contract, I include my studio services as part of it, right? So it comes as a package deal with me. And because of that, what I explain to them is, look, since you have a band, we're going to go into the big studio, and we're going to have to do this because my studio can't support a live drum kit. It just can't. I don't have the space for it. I need square footage. And you, of course, want a room that sounds good, because otherwise, what's the point, right? I might as well sequence it. So explain to them what the purpose of the big studio is. Explain to them the benefit of not being on an hourly rate plan, a daily rate plan. Okay. Now, if you want to cut the spine for 20 songs in 3 days, you go to a big studio, you knock it out. But remember, all those session players have a fee as well. Anyways, I think I'm getting off track here. So objection override technique. Explain the big studio. Explain the benefit of the personal studio. I also know this room exceptionally well. I also have all hours access to this room. That means we're no longer on a time frame. That means if we need to come back and recut something, we're not paying additional money. That means that if you don't like your vocal performance, you can come back the next day. All things considered, is if it's cool with you, the producer, they come back the next day and they do it. So there's a lot of benefits. So in sales, and this should be the real answer to this question, but all this kind of led us there. You have a thing called it's bridge, benefit, tie down. Bridge, benefit, tie down. Bridge the gap. Explain to them why. Connect with them. Okay, so I hear that you're asking me the difference between a big and a small studio. So I'm going to bridge the gap here. I'm going to explain to them the benefits of each and the strengths of each. So then what we're going to do is bridge, benefit, tie down. So the benefit of each was, big studio drums, multi in one day, small studio, more intimate, more special, more private, more, I know the room better. It's whatever. It's a smaller room. Usually listening rooms that you're mixing in tend to be smaller anyways. I mean, mastering studios and all this stuff, they're not these giant cavernous tracking rooms anymore. So tie down would be this question, and this is where we're going to. So you say, here's the thing. What really matters to you? At the end of all this, what is the single most important thing for your record? And the answer is the way that it sounds, right? Because we're making music. We're not making video. So it's not the way it looks, it's the way it sounds. Unless that video example was the thing earlier. But here's it is. So I say to them, here's the objection override technique. If I could deliver you the same sound in a small studio or a big studio, or if I could give you a better sound from the small studio versus the big studio, what would you choose? And then let them answer. Okay? Set it up, bridge, benefit, tie down. The tie down is this question, because they're going to answer. They're going to say, well, if I could get the same sound from either location, the big studio or the small studio, then the one that is less expensive is a better choice, right? If I don't need the services, the benefits of the big studio, because I'm doing a dance track, I don't need the live room because I'm not doing drums. I don't need the ability to knock out 5 songs in one day. I'm not paying all these musicians. And I can get a better sound at a cheaper cost with more flexibility and privacy. Then the answer is very simple. So what you want to do, Nick, is, this is a practice technique. You have to explain this. You have to get used to explaining this because, first off, it has to be natural. It has to come smoothly. You can't be blubbering over your words and being like, I don't really know what to say, because it's like you do this every day. And this is normal talk. We do this every day. You know the benefits of the big and the small studio. So get used to explaining it. And here it is. Bridge, benefit, tie down. Bridge the gap. Explain it to them. Benefit. The benefits of either scenario. The tie down. What would you like? If all things considered, what do you pick? Because really, it's not the producer's job to tell the executive producer what money to spend. It is the producer's job to give them the menu and let them pick the services they want. Okay, so I'm going to take that concept and we're going to jump over to Max Deering, who asks about the role of the producer and the added cost for that role. He said, if I understood correctly, it sounded like in your studio, you get a lot of people that come in and want to track, and then they want you to produce them, but they're not necessarily stepping up and contracting you to be the producer. They're just paying you hourly or whatever. And I think this is basically what I'm understanding. So what I would say to you is that, there's one thing to be, if you don't have a client with a budget and then you want to work with them, my first opinion would be that every job we do at 110%. And that means if you need to produce it, you produce the craziest, most badass piece of music that you could possibly do, because you never know what song is going to be the one that takes you to success, and you never know how many people this person is going to have in their sphere of influence. So when they take their song and they drop it in the pond, and the kinetic waves travel on and on, those are people that you couldn't have touched because you don't have access to that social network. You don't have access to that sphere of influence. The best friend who has a really badass band who hears this and goes, wow, that's amazing, and this chick can't really sing. I can sing. If he did that with her, imagine what he could do with me. So I would never recommend that you put yourself in a position where you are underperforming because someone didn't give you the title or the extra $100. Okay, so my opinion is that you do the work, always on your A game, okay? And it'll lead to better. And I would even go so far as to tell the person, look, you're a new client, and I really appreciate you coming in and working with me because I really like the music that you're doing. This, of course, is true. And then you're going to say, so today, I know you only have the budget to hire my studio hourly as and me as an engineer, and I know you only have the budget to go this far, but you really need to have a producer on your record. And what's important about this is that I step in and fill this gap because a self-produced artist is a non-produced artist. You can't hear yourself in the headphones and give feedback. You can't. You can't produce yourself. I mean, it's just you can't. The producer is the first point of feedback. When you get a performance, it's like, is it pleasing? Does it need to be better? Does it be worth it? So you have to have an audience member there perceiving the performance and giving feedback on it. So I'm going to do this for you today because I want your record to be amazing. Okay? Even though you don't have the budget for it, I'm gonna step in and I'm gonna give that to you as your role. So just make sure you title me correctly because this is what I'm doing for you. In the future, here are my rates. Here's what I'm gonna, So the first one's a freebie, effectively, right? Now now if you want to bring someone else to produce your record, by all means you can, but you have to understand that there's a lot that goes into this producing records thing. Giving even so far as post production, editing and tuning vocals and doing all this stuff. So explain it to them. Again, this always comes back to open lines of communication, explaining it to them. Make sure there's a connection there and that they understand where you're coming from and that you're not just penny pinching on them and you're not just trying to get them look, I'm legitimately going to spend 8 hours of post-production time tuning the vocals and editing the drums and sample replacing or mixing or whatever, and I deserve to be compensated for that because the product I'm going to give you is super badass. So you have to explain this to them because people don't know. They can't read your mind. So all that said is, I would recommend to you that what you do is approach the situation selling the brand service that you want to represent, even if you discount that service for this client. It's always better to put yourself forward as the service provider you want to be. And what I mean by that is, if you present yourself as a producer and this person can only afford to hire, let me quantify this. Budget, okay? Let's say it's $200. So $100 gets, and I'm making this up, Max Deering as engineer and mixer for $100. But $200 would have gotten Max Deering as producer, engineer, and mixer. So it's a shift in the psyche. You can either present yourself as a producer, or you can present yourself as a mix engineer and a regular engineer, tracking engineer. And since they can't afford to pay the full budget that you would want for a full contract, producer contract rate, you've effectively gone through and striked out the title and the credit, even though you're still going to do the job, right? So it's always better to just say, here's the one service I do, and it's a it's a fall down or a trickle down service: production, mixing, and engineer. Now, granted, at any point I'll give you your session files and you can have somebody else mix it. At any point I'll give you your mixed and I'll give you your mastered, and you can have a professional mastering guy go do that for you. I always provide these options for them because it's not about telling people what to do; it's about giving them options and letting them decide so that they appreciate what's going on. So I would say you're better off presenting as a full value, presenting as the big title, presenting as the service provider you want to be, and then you've effectively just discounted your services this one time as a gift because you're a new client or whatever. I'm going to discount my services for you, other than putting them in a position where you're trying to get the extra $100 out of them and get a title, and I'm well, I'm going to do the work, but because the whole point is it's about what people agree to. It's about being upfront with this stuff. Because nobody wants to feel bamboozled. Nobody wants to feel like you've taken advantage of them, like you did the bait and switch on them. So always just be forthcoming with it. Here's what's going on. Don't do the bait and switch. Don't say, well, I got you in the door for $100, and now that I have you, I'm going to hold your record ransom until you pay me to be a producer. That sucks. And nobody wants to be that way. And that reputation is going to follow someone around. So the other side of that is that the reputation of the giver, the generous person, the wonderful producer, the person who really can be counted on, that will also follow you around. So I think that's my brains there. So the last question I'm going to answer real quick today was from Ghostweb, who is a badass. So he asked me in private, didn't ask me on the thread, and I asked him if I could ask this in private or public or whatever. So it's a good question, and I'm going to do my best to answer it succinctly because we're already at 30 minutes. How do I let a big artist know that I'm here and I'm ready? How do I let them know that I'm willing to relocate to a studio? How do I let them know that I'm ready for the next level? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to answer this is it's very similar to when am I ready for a manager? Okay. One of the things I've been doing lately, I had an event happened, which some of you guys may know about or read about. I did a post in a private group, Sonica, about it. And I got a troll, basically. It's a better. So somebody was coming directly at my business, a rival, competitor. And this spurred me to revisit the idea of getting a manager so that I would have a middleman to filter out this stuff and deal with the day-to-day business stuff that I've grown too busy to handle in addition to making records. So there's a tipping point that happens that your schedule is so full making records that you don't have enough time in the day to do the business stuff of a personal manager, which an entrepreneur, an independent has to do themselves. Okay, you have to not only be the producer, you have to be your own booking agent. You have to be your manager that handles all the contracts. You have to set up your appointments. You have to do email correspondences, right? This is all in one person, and quite frankly, there's not enough hours in the day to do everything. But you got to find it. That's why I've already been mixing for 8 hours, 9 hours now, and now I'm doing my blog post afterwards. I'm going to write some emails, and I'm going to go have a late dinner. So the best way to start on this process, I know this isn't the question you asked, is to have a schedule. So I do emails from 9 to 10 a.m. and then I go in the studio. And from 10 to 1, I work, and then from 1 to 2, I get a lunch break or whatever, and then I come back and I work another 5 hours, another 6 hours, whatever, and then I break for dinner later. Or afterwards, I'll do my correspondence. So if you can get a schedule going, then it's a little bit easier for you to keep on top of your business stuff, because then you realize you're like, oh, I didn't do my stuff today. I need to get on that. And as far as marketing goes, having a regularly scheduled marketing program is way better than skipping it and then doing 4 hours of marketing on a Friday. You're much better off to keep that going throughout the week, 1 hour at a time, because then you stay up, you stay relevant, you're up there, and your lights flashing and your neon sign, and you're gonna be like here, versus having your neon sign be off for 6 days, and then on Friday I'm going to turn it on for 4 hours. Okay, I'd rather see that you blinked it all the week. But getting back to the question. So when do I know I'm ready for a manager? When do I know I'm ready for the next level? And I was speaking with a manager who I won't name, but he's a really, really tier 1 manager. And he was telling me that there are 4 major success paths for an indie producer. Okay. And it's they go like this. I wrote it down. So the first one is that you're born famous. Okay. So if you are Axl Rose's son, or whatever, right? Then you get to be like, hey, I'm Axl Rose's son, and I grew up rocking out backstage, wah, right? I just happened to be the sweet child that was, written about in the song or whatever. That's going to take you in the door. People are going to pay attention to you like, that's just, it is what it is, okay? So, born famous. The next one is band famous transition to producer. So this would be, I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. You had a famous band that you were in. Maybe you were the drummer, okay? And then you took that fame from being out there on the road, and your band was so badass that people were like, dude, I love your band. I would love for you to produce our record. And then you transition that direction. This would be a very similar path to a live sound engineer who works with bands. And the band basically says, our studio engineer's not cutting it, and you do such a great job with us live that we now want to transition you to our studio guy because you're badass. So that's the second one, would be a famous band transitions to studio producer. The next one would be if you worked your way up from intern at a major studio, and you worked all the way up to the lead engineer. This probably would take 4 or 5, 6 years of you hanging in there. all right, and the right circumstances. People get sick that day, and you showed up, and you got to cut that one record. That transitions to a credit that goes on a platinum record on the wall, and now you have enough of a push and enough of a cachet dealing with a great record that has a significant cool factor. Okay, so let's just say you made Tool Enema. Right? That's badass. I mean, you're going to work off that record. So now, where you once were a salaried employee of the studio, you now have a credit fed through the studio, and you paid your dues, right? You came up through the ranks, you were there, you got your credit. Now you're able to take that credit and go to the major labels and be like, yo, I did Tool Enema. How badass is that? I wish I did Tool Enema. How badass would that be? Anyways, back to it. So that's the number 3 would be big studio cred transitions to independent. And the 4th would be the path that I'm on, the path that the majority of us are on. While I have worked at big studios and all these things, worked with some great acts, I am stuck with organic growth of finding talent and breaking them as an indie act or having them get signed as an indie act, and then my production carries forward. And the reason is that this is just most common. Most of us end up doing our own stuff. And actually, this is the core of what this blog is about and why I want to talk to you guys about this. How do we succeed organically as an independent without any assistance from those other main things? Don't have a famous dad. I wasn't in a famous band. I don't have a famous studio that led me to this. Okay, so we're really, really focused on establishing a marketing presence that creates buzz around our name, and then finding local acts that give us the credits that'll take us to the next level, because you have to have coolness that you can then sell to these really cool people who know what cool is, because you can't pull the wool over their eyes. I mean, if it's Tool, Maynard knows that, you know what I mean? Like, what did you do? I don't know. I did this like Asian pop tune for these girls, and it was like a 5-girl group, and it was really like synthy and stuff. And then they're going to be like, dude, we're Tool. You know what I mean? That doesn't fly. You have to bring the cool that people respect. My stepdad once said to me, you can't spend currency that doesn't belong to a country. Or he said something like that. But that's the truth. It's like you can't spend cool points at a place where those points are invalid, right? Now, granted, you do that major Asian pop record, and then you go over to Seoul, Korea, and you blow up. So just remember, be smart with your progression. So back to it, goes to original question. How do I let the big artists know that I'm here or even willing to relocate to a studio? So the first question is regarding the relocating to another studio. This question is about doing work in another city, because an in-town move from studio to studio is whatever. That's just like, where do you want to work? And I'll show up and I drive there and I got a burrito on the way. But if you're talking about going city to city, then it becomes a question of budget, because the truth of this is they have to pay extra to get you there, and then you need to have room and board. Maybe it's even a per diem, which is like $50 a day for food or whatever. So let's just say that I want to book you for a month, and I want to go over and I'm going to cut a month at a record. That means they've got to do what, $100 a night in hotel for a month. That's a lot of money. That's 30 days at $100, right? That's a lot of money. Okay, so think about your price, and then of course you have to have the studio fee. Since it's not your studio, it's not included in your price. So that means they're booking your fee, they're booking the studio cost, they're booking a hotel fee, they're booking transportation fee, they're giving you a per diem for food, versus hiring a local guy, which has one cost. Okay, so this is a tough sell. You can just see it stacked against you. So always use logical expectation in this. Like, it is illogical to think that I'm going to just come from Los Angeles to Miami 3 times a year and they're just going to pay for everything. The only way you're going to get this is going to be if someone has big enough pockets that they just don't care. Or that, and here's the kicker, that you find someone who's so confident in the project they've done. And I learned this from a manager, Mike Cotto, who I shouldn't have named him just because I don't want you guys to hit him up. But he's a really nice guy. And he said to me, I always go for the biggest advance on a contract for the producer that I could possibly go for. And the reason is that the size of the advance, the willingness to pay upfront money to the producer, is confidence in the return on investment. Okay? The size of the advance equals confidence in the return on investment. What does that mean? That means that I'm not going to pay a producer $20,000 if I, the executive producer, am not confident that I can sell enough records to pay back the $20,000 and then get a return on my investment. Because just remember, paying back the $20,000 is not a return on your investment. That's just a recouping of funds. That means now I'm back at zero and I haven't made any money yet. That's $20,000 you got to come out. So then on top of that, now I think I can double my money. And in today's market of sales, in the music business right now, our sales are crap for the middle ground. The entire indie, market in the middle ground market, it's crap. If you don't have $1 million to throw up for billboards across America, you're not selling records. So we have to find other ways. So just think that these clients really aren't going to be able to put up the kind of money to get you to go there unless you happen to have extenuating circumstances that would allow this to financially work, such as your sister happens to live in Miami. My sister lives in Nashville. So like when I go to Nashville, I get to stay with her. So that eliminates the hotel fee right off the top of everything. She can loan me a car. I don't need transportation. So now I've chunked down my costs. So you have to pull on your own resources to even see if it's feasible to make this move. Anyways, and then on top of that, you're going to see whether or not they have enough confidence in the act to do this. So I would just say, generally speaking, small acts and medium acts, you need to stay local. You need to work your marketing local, people that can get to you on a day and not, I've had clients fly in for a week, 2 weeks at a time. And, it's funny because I had one client who spent 30 G's and I only saw like 3 of that because the rest of it was on hotel fees and stuff. Well, that was a really great 2 weeks for this client. I could have done a lot with that money it all went over to other people, massages and Disneyland and all that stuff. But you see how this gets a little tricky. So now we're going to say, how do I let the artist know I'm here? Well, the truth of this is that, of course, the first way you want to do it is the organic way. You want to have a personal connection. So you would do in romance what's called a meet cute, right? The best connection is going to be an introduction through a mutual party that you both know that respects you, because there's nothing more powerful than the introduction. And I don't mean self-introduction. I mean the referral of a trusted companion who says, oh, hey, Ludacris, you really need to meet my buddy Ghostweb over here. He's the next big thing. Okay? And Ludacris goes, oh, really? You're the next big deal. Well, I'm going to holler at you for a minute. Okay? So that introduction is more powerful than you being like, hey, yo, Luda, yo, hold on, what's up, Luda? Hey, man, dude, I'm a huge fan. I really love what you do. Here's my shit. Okay? It doesn't work the same way. So I would say finding your personal connections to these people is really important. And then, of course, who's the direct into a major artist? It's going to be their personal manager, someone who controls or filters communication for them. So getting in good with the personal manager. And then I remember last week I talked about developing these relationships and social media and what they like and swag and all these things. So if you want to talk about developing the relationship, go back to that one. Last week's episode 1. Anyways, how do I let the big artists know I'm here? Now, the key to this is that, remember, you get one shot. Just like 8 Mile, you get one shot. Don't miss your chance to blow, right? Okay, so the problem is that if you believe you are ready, all right, I am at a level where I'm competitive with the tier 1 guys that you are working with regularly. I could prove to you, if you've given me the opportunity, I could sit down, I could prove to you that this sound is as good as this sound, the one that you already have. Look, I'm doing the next greatest thing, but quality-wise, they're right here. Then it comes down to price, just like we said before. Put it in their hands. So I can give you the next cool thing, and it'll be cheaper than paying 5 times that amount for the guy that has all the credentials or whatever. So, but how do I get to that place? And again, you have to get in there with a legitimate introduction and be brought in as a friend, as a peer, as a whatever, because the minute that you approach this from an excuse me, can I introduce myself way, unless the dude's feeling super kind that day, or you just really blow it out of the water, like you just come in and you just sparkle all over this, and it's like the best introduction you've ever done, chances are it's not going to go the way you want it to go. And then the problem is that you just burn that bridge because you came in prematurely. You went in and you were like, hey, this is me, and they're like, I don't love it. Now what? It's awkward. Awkward turtle. So, strategically, I would say you're not ready unless you know that pulling the string is going to get you a sale. And I'm going to mean like, I hope it's going to get me a sale. I hope it's going to get me a contract. I'm just going to get me a client. I'm talking about like, you can almost guarantee if I could just get this in his hands and get him to listen, then I could do it. So then, of course, you're dealing with the filtering, the posse, the troop, everybody involved that's in the middleman. And then the truth of this is that going to the people that have the power to actually make decisions, the power to get it in their hands, manager or agent, that's really all it is. Possibly employing what's called a song plugger. Song plugger is a Nashville term for a publisher who specifically deals in relationships. And this is someone that has the ability to take your published work, and for a percentage of your publishing, usually like 50% up to 100%, they're going to middleman that to Ludacris, and they're going to be like, look, dude, here's this track, you got to have it. But the thing is that this goes exactly back to what we just said. This is someone who can make the introduction for you, that is both trusted, has a reliable track record of success, and can convince them on your behalf with the introduction to take a chance on you, because that's really what they're doing. And most people in this position, they don't take chances. There isn't 30 records anymore and the best 12 make the album. It's usually like, they know within 30, 45 seconds whether they're going to do it, and they're just, they're going to do it. So I don't know if that really answered your question, but we'll go one last time. How do I let big artists know that I'm here? You have to approach them on their turf through the correct channels and wow them in one shot, because you won't get a second shot. The only way that works is a great song. And I was watching a John Mayer thing at Berkeley that somebody linked me, and that he answered a very similar question. Somebody in the audience said, I've got my record, and how do I get out there and market it? And John says, great songs are how you do it. The only way it's going to work is if there's great songs that make a connection. So the truth is that I can tell you things to say, I can tell you ways to approach the situation, but if the song itself isn't there, then it's not going to fly. Doesn't matter what you do, it's not going to work, because I'm like, this isn't what I want. So that said, we can't really train that kind of a connection. We can only train the numbers game part of it, the part where we get better technique at sales, the part that we get better at making these connections. We can train that, we can practice that, we can get really good at it so that we can get ourselves into a scenario where I have the opportunity to put the song in front of a Ludacris and be like, don't you want this song? And then hope that they do. I personally, as an independent, find much more success when I custom make songs for someone. And that's just the way I found my business works. I am not a person who has a catalog of beats and then an artist flips through. And a lot of urban dance people want that. They want to have 20 techno songs, and they're going to top line the one that sounds the best. And so there's a lot of people, sort of the West Coast way to doing things, where you have a catalog of work and then just flip through for the best one. I don't work that way. I personally would rather have you bring a song to me that's done, and I would rather craft an arrangement for it and then really target what's popular right now and what makes sense for an artist's career path. And so when I'm doing this sales pitch with the artist, when I'm sitting an artist down and I'm saying, okay, I'm doing discovery, I'm assessing the situation. We've done the coffee meeting with the artist. I'm sitting down and I'm saying, okay, tell me about, here's one of the questions I actually ask a lot. I say, okay, so, because what we're doing is we're going to get sales tools. Okay, so you're going to have questions that you feel comfortable with asking an artist that get you information. So some of the questions I ask are, if I had a magic wand and I could wave my magic wand for you and I could give you the record that would succeed and would make all your dreams come true, if I could just whip it out of thin air, what would it sound like? Or I'll say the same question. If I could make the perfect record for you that would give you the success, what's the next step? Fast forward 6 months. I've given you the perfect record. We're a very good team. So you throw in a little sales trick like that, right? So, and I'm doing this, and I'm selling myself the whole time. So I'm going to say, okay, client, here's magic wand. We make this great record. It's incredible. You and I are a wonderful team together. I really understand your art. And then now what? Now what are you going to do with this record? And they're going to say, well, I've always wanted to be on Kiss FM. Then that tells you, okay, here's the lane of the music that has to be in. Or, I want to go conquer the indie rap scene. I don't know. But the point is this discovery time. So what you have to do is you have to ask questions, leading questions that get the person to open up to you and tell you what kind of music they want you to make for them. And I found that this, for me, has been much more successful. And I truly believe the top level guys, the Ken Lewises that are doing this every day, I don't believe these guys are making catalogs of beats. I honestly believe that they're working on music with the artists. They're in there, and that's just what I believe. Maybe I'm totally off basis, but I would personally rather work this way, which could mean songwriting together. Sometimes I'll just make drum loops and give like 5 different drum loops with no music to it to my artists and be like, what do you connect with? Okay, but let's get back to the questions again. Here's another question. I'll say, this is a good, I actually do ask, honest to God, I ask these questions. How about this? If I'm not really sure, and I'm trying to get the person to explain the music to me, because the truth is they're not really sure. And then I'll say, if I could, God forbid this never happened, but let's just say your favorite, well, let me rephrase this. God forbid this ever happened, but a plane goes down and the lead singer of a band passes away in this plane crash. And they came up to you and tapped you on the shoulder. And they said, look, I need you to step in and fill the shoes of this person. You are the perfect person for this. What band would that be? And then the artist is going to think for a second and be like, oh my God, there's so many I would love to sing for. And then I say, but it's not about who you could fit the mold of. What would be the perfect band to be your new backing band on tour? Okay, so here's another question. I'm going to ask, if I could wave my magic wand and I could get you an opening spot for any touring act right now, that would be the correct demographic for you, that would make sense, who would it be? Now, invariably, people are going to say Katy Perry or Christina Aguilera or whatever. But if you could really define that, then you would know your market. You would know the demographic of the fan. You would understand the radio station. You would say, oh, her goal is to be the next MC for the underground scene. Then that means it's battle rap. I don't know. But this is my point. You're developing your concept as to what the music is before you've ever touched the keyboard. In this meeting, you're letting the artist tell you what kind of music that they want to make. And you're leading them as a producer. You're pulling the information out of them a little bit at a time by giving them scenarios that allow them to dream, that allow them to tell you exactly what they want. There's a lot of people that say don't bring up competition. I think that's about knowing your artist that you're talking to. Some people don't care about competition. Some people are driven by competition. Some people don't want to hear about their competition. Like they don't want to hear any other horses in the race. The fact that you mentioned Katy Perry turned them off. So you have to really just understand and know the person you're talking to. And this all goes back to that question. So the last thing I guess I'll close with here, because we're up at about 53 minutes, and this is time flies, is that I want you guys to succeed. I don't think anybody's talking about this stuff on the internet, and that doesn't mean that I think that I'm special because I want to talk about this stuff with you. But what I want to do is I want to see more people succeeding. I want the middle class of musicians to get more powerful, and this specifically happens when we lose less sales. Okay, remember the shoe analogy. This is about putting shoes on a person's foot, selling the shoes and getting them out the door. This isn't about abstract paintings and stuff like that. We need to make records. We need to get moving. We need to pay our bills. We need to keep the studio lights on. We need to expand our careers by making great tunes. And the only way to do that is to raise our numbers up and increase our chances for success. And this means less fumbles. This means more meetings. So when you're considering how you're going to succeed in sales, the hardest part is defining what your goals are. So if you know that your batting average is 1 out of 3, then you could say, look, for every 3 meetings I go on, I get 1 client. That means to get the next client, I need to go on 3 meetings this week to fill my schedule, because they're usually 1 song or whatever. Let's just pretend my average contract is 1 song. It's not, but stay with me here. So my average contract is 1 song. I personally, as a producer, know that that 1 song takes me 1 week to do. That means I need to go on 3 meetings a week to get 1 contract for 1 song. That means that I'm constantly needing to be going on 3 meetings every week to keep my calendar full. Okay, now this gives you the ability to forecast, okay, and it tells you how much work you have to do. Because now what you can do is you can say, look, I don't have any meetings this week, so I need to ramp up my marketing and not spend time organizing my sample library. I don't need to make beats today. I need to focus on getting my meetings, okay, which means that you have to get out there and market. You have to get out there and push. You have to make your neon sign, put the posters up, flyer the rehearsal hall parking lots, do the thing that everybody else isn't willing to do. Get out of the studio and go, 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 go. You are a salesperson for your own services now. So you have to become your sales department, and you need to meet your sales goals. If you were working for any sales institution, hotel, I don't know, whatever, you would have a sales manager, and the sales manager would have sales goals and milestones, and they would probably give you a reward or a bonus for hitting a certain quarterly sales goal, okay? Incentive. So find your incentive, find your purpose. What were you put in this planet to do? Allow that purpose to infect, inspire your drive to fulfill your goals. So identify your goals for your sales goals. How many appointments do I need? How many emails do I need? How many marketing pieces do I need to put out to get 1 inbound sales lead? How many babies do I have to kiss before somebody's going to pay attention? Okay, so it's always a numbers game. So define your numbers. What are my sales goals? And then you work towards that, and you don't do other stuff. The number one question you ask yourself: is this an income-producing activity? Is this an income-producing activity? And if the answer is no, then you stop doing it and you move on, okay? If you jump on Facebook and you market on Facebook, ask yourself, is this an income-producing activity? If the answer is yes, then you're fine, dude, do it. But if the answer is no, as in no, I've never received, I personally, Daniel Robert Ford, Dr. Ford, I've never received an inbound sales lead from posting a post on Facebook about, hey, here's my stuff, my services. What I have done from Facebook is develop relationships with people and then offered them services when I saw that they were ready. I didn't badger them. For example, sometimes I just do it for free. Like sometimes there's a Gabriel Prushinia, I hope that's the right way to say it, Gabriel, is a friend I made like a year or two ago because we were talking about compressors, and he hit me up and he was like, hey, can I get your advice on a mix? And I said, dude, this is a really cool song. I'll just master it for you. And he appreciated that a lot. And so now I have a rapport with this dude. And if he needs my services, he's going to call me because he knows the job I do. So sometimes we do freebies, okay? It's just a master. It only took me an hour, 2 hours on 2 different days, but he was so stoked, and I felt really good being able to do that for a friend, because if he'd had the budget to hire a professional dude, I would have just taken him to my mastering guy and been like, here, take it as my dude, okay? So is this an income-producing activity? It's very important. And with 1 minute and 30 seconds left, I can tell you, last thing I'll do today is that when I was first getting going in here in Los Angeles, when I first moved back from Nashville, I was in Nashville for a few years building my studio originally and starting to collect enough gear to actually do the work. And I came back, and my mom, the realtor, I said, Mom, I need help getting started. I need someone to, keep me accountable. And she said, well, here, how about this? I'll be your boss. Of course she wasn't my boss, but I'll hold you accountable. So my recommendation is, first, find someone who loves you who appreciates you, who can be honest with you, and keep you accountable. Okay? And then what I want you to do is I want you to build an Excel spreadsheet. Days, hours, activities. Okay? And every day, this is for you guys starting up, you go into your studio and you work, and you sit down and you turn off all the distractions and you work. You market, you network, you reach out, you spend 8 hours a day, because in any job you would be working 40 hours a week, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, right? And I want you to log on your Excel spreadsheet. Today, I took 2 hours and I responded to emails. They were all business emails. I didn't look at Vintage King, okay? And then I spent the next 2 hours mixing freebies for some prospective clients because I have to prove myself I'm at the paying dues stage. And then the next 4 hours I spent marketing and posting and doing graphic design, whatever it is. You know what I mean? But is this an income producing activity? Yes, this is something that will lead to business, okay? And you log that in your Excel spreadsheet, and you are accountable to yourself. You are accountable to the spreadsheet, and you do not stop working until you've logged at least 8 hours a day, better 10 to 12. But the truth of the matter is that you need to do that before you sit in your underwear and play Xbox all day on Saturday. If you have not logged 40 hours of work that week building your business, you are in no position to take a Saturday or a Sunday. We are independent, and we are succeeding as independents because we hold ourselves accountable and we work harder than everybody else. So what I would do is I would fill the spreadsheet for 2 weeks like I was at a job, and then I send this to my mom. And then she would look over it and she'd bust me. She would write me back and be like, hey, looks like you did 50 hours the first week, but you only did 35 hours this week because of whatever was going on. And then I had to be accountable for that. I had to, pretend she was my boss and be like, okay, well, I can do better because it's my future. So when you adopt this mentality, when you adopt this type of a drive, when you adopt systems that you can personally put into place and work with that allow you to be better at sales, marketing, business, you succeed more often because it's a numbers game. It's all about raising your batting average, all right? Because the chances are, in a career of 20 years, provided you don't give up, you're eventually going to push the boulder up the hill. You're eventually going to get the rapper to pay attention to you. You're eventually going to get that band that's about to get signed, and they're going to come to you, and your production's going to get them signed, and it's all going to click, and you're going to go. At least that's what I keep telling myself. So happy Monday. I hope that you all have a very exceptionally productive week. If you need someone to be accountable, I'm here. And if you guys have any problems, any questions, whatever, next Sunday I will post again. Think of your questions. We'll do another blog then. So this is Succeeding as an Independent number 2. Thanks for watching, everybody who's still with me. Be the success.